Matt Berner, you're taking a look at the Stronach 5 sequence for Friday, October the 19th. Again, the Stronach 5, it's a pick 5 that spans the family of Stronach race tracks. It's a 12% takeout, $1 base bet. Leg A on Friday is the 7th race down at Gulfstream Park West. Scheduled post time is 4:36 Eastern. And this entire sequence for me, a little bit of want to kind of fade some of those horses that are going to be shorter prices that I don't particularly think have any giant edge. And this race is case in point. Crumb Bun makes all the sense in the world from a speed figure standpoint, but there's a part of me that says through 6 lifetime starts, 4 times second or third, yet to finally find the winner's circle, going to take a ton of money in this spot. I respect the horse absolutely can win, but at some point, you got to cut some corners and you got to cut some costs. So, you know what? I'm going to throw that horse out. And again, this is nothing more than throwing out some ideas for you to consider. You agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it may be. This is nothing more than a guideline, hopefully, maybe to key you into some horses that maybe you had overlooked or vice versa. Maybe reconsider some horses that you would really liked. Crumb Bun can win the race. Don't want him. 4 horses I'm going to use. The 2, the 4, the 6, and the 11. The 2 is a first-time starter, perfect 10. This is a horse is a half to Ondine. Ondine was a stakes winner and was twice a second-place finisher as a 2-year-old, so there is some precocity here. You see Antonio Sano as the trainer. The number 4 horse, whatever you say, dear. I kind of feel like from a speed figure standpoint, if anyone takes a substantial step forward, it will be this horse. The race at Delaware, relatively solid group. And the 70 time form US rating, the raw and pace adjusted number, I think if you bump that up to an 80 here, second time out, this horse makes a ton of sense in the world. I just kind of feel like this is a very logical horse to be considering in here. The 6 is Godot. Godot is out of a dam who was 1 for 2 as a 2-year-old, so you've got a little bit of precocity there. The currency swaps have done okay thus far. And again, this is another one that if you're looking for a first-time starter, you're looking for a fresh face, perhaps this is one to consider, the number 6 Godot. And the last horse I will use is the outside run of the 11, Sweetheart Lady. And there's a part of me that thinks that Sweetheart Lady, although you have seen speed and fade essentially in each of the past 3 starts, I think there's a scenario where this is the speed of the speed, breaking from the far outside, just hit the gas, break on top, and try to go off to the top. I think this horse is a little bit interesting in here. So again, I understand Crumb Bun can win this race, but I'm only going to use 4 horses. I'm going to try to fade Crumb Bun. I'm going to use the 2, the 4, the 6, and the 11. We move on to leg B of the Stronach 5 on Friday afternoon. It's the 3rd race out at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita. 1 mile on the main track. These are maiden claimers, $30,000 at the level. Only going to use 2 horses in here, the 2 and the 6. The 2 is RBI, and I understand anyone that says, well, if you use the 2, why aren't you going to use the 3, Red Clem, when they were only separated by 3/4 of a length? I feel like there was a real scenario where you just saw the superior animal get the better. And let me rephrase that. I feel like this horse did more work necessarily than Red Clem did in that race at Los Al most recently. That was in a maiden claimer going a mile. I think RBI did more work in that race than Red Clem did, and I realized that Red Clem was the one that was actually cutting out the fractions, and RBI was pushing, eventually put a half length on, and then just faded down the lane. I just feel like RBI is the kind of horse that, you know what, you're going to probably get a comparable price, perhaps even better. I think this horse has more natural speed and this mile distance. I prefer RBI over the 3-horse Red Clem. But I can understand anyone that makes the case that I just made mention of. That, you know, and if you like one, you kind of have to like the other. The other horse, and probably the more likely, I would imagine, of this, the 2 that I'll be looking at, is the 6, Stay in Your Lane. This is a horse that, again, stretching out in distance, going from 6 furlongs to a mile. No guarantee that it's going to work, but you see the pedigree. You would imagine that the distance isn't going to be any sort of an issue. This is another horse that, you know, the debut, bit of an even running line, had a little bit of tactical speed and faded. And then the most recent start faded badly. Now, that's a little bit of a concern, but I'm going to just give this one the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, from a speed figure standpoint, if this horse can earn something close to that raw 79 time form US rating from the career debut, the 80 pace adjusted number, anything close to that going 2 turns, going to be very, very difficult to beat. Has that little bit of tactical ability, and it's very important to keep in mind, 2 turns at Santa Anita, speed usually does particularly well. We always talk about speed out in Southern California. You always want to be forward. Even more so at Santa Anita, going 2 turns specifically. I think each of these horses are going to be forwardly placed. The 2 and the 6 for me in race number 3 at Santa Anita, the 2nd leg of the Stronach 5. The 3rd leg, we go back down to Gulfstream West. Take a look at the 8th race. This is a race on the turf at a mile and a 16th. It is an allowance race. I'll look at 2 horses, the 5 and the 9. The 9 could very easily be the speed that's designing going out for Chad Summers. You want to talk about class relief. This horse is going from facing a pretty salty group up at Saratoga back on September the 2nd. Now we've got a little bit of time off. We go down to Gulfstream West. This horse has a victory over the Gulfstream West turf course. And again, could very easily be the speed of the speed. I like the 9 designing in here. And I'm also going to use the number 5 horse, Seafire. Seafire is a horse that, from a speed figure standpoint, makes all the sense in the world. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of move we get from this horse, because we've seen some speed in that most recent start, but then you go to those runs, basically the other 3 here in the States, coming from off of the pace. So I'm going to be curious to see what kind of trip this horse works out. Haven't seen this one in a long time. It was a vet scratch back on November the 8th at Aqueduct, but guess what? That was in 2017. This horse has been gone for a long time. Who knows if the horse can still run? If this one, in fact, can go, I think she's got a little bit of a chance in here because she was facing better horses when she was running. Seafire is another one for me. But most of my eggs would probably be in the 9s basket, designing, hopefully, trying to wire this field. If not, I'll use a little bit of a backup with the 5, Seafire. We move on to the 4th leg of the Stronach 5. We go to Laurel Park in Laurel, Maryland. We're going to go a mile on the turf course. This is an allowance race for 3-year-olds and up. Again, 2 horses I'm going to be most particular, or most keyed in on anyway. The 10 and the 12. Let's start with the 12. The 12 could work out a beautiful trip in here. This is Banjo Bill. Now, I think there's a legitimate case where Banjo Bill could perhaps be a need-the-lead type, and I don't believe he's necessarily going to be on the lead. But there's a chance where he sits off of a stretch-out sprinter and could just inherit this thing by default when the stretch-out sprinter fades. I think from a speed figure standpoint, this horse makes a lot of sense. You have to question a little bit, will he pass a horse if there is some sort of a challenge from that stretch-out sprinter? But at the end of the day, I just think this one could work at a very nice trip in here. I think Banjo Bill is one that you have to consider. Admittedly, though, I think I'm a little bit more intrigued with Taxable Goods. Taxable Goods goes out for Lynn Ashby and Chris DiCarlo with the mount. Most recently, against Stakes Company up at Parks. Realistically, just in over his head. 2 starts back. I think that's the race that you want to take a look at. Only prevailed by a nose, but it was here at Laurel Park, the only start over the Laurel turf course. And I just think from a tactical standpoint, if the 2 and the 12 go at it, perhaps there's a scenario where the 10 Taxable Goods is just in behind. Maybe the 10 doesn't actually want to go buy horses. And Taxable Goods is the one that takes this thing over, turning for home. To me, those are the 2 horses that I would want to have most of my attention with as far as this wager is concerned. The 10 Taxable Goods and the number 12 Banjo Bill. Hopefully we're alive getting into the payoff leg of the Stronach 5 on Friday afternoon. And then we go back out west. We go to Golden Gate Fields up in the San Francisco area. Race number 5. It's an allowance race. 3-year-olds and up going a mile on the turf course. Again, most intrigued with 2 horses in particular. The 2 and the 6. Let's start with the number 2 because I think Saburai is that kind of horse. This is a class move that we have seen for years now. Horses that are a little bit overmatched down in Southern California, go north, you get a little bit inferior company that you run against. Maybe on paper you look a little bit suspect. From a number standpoint, though, this horse Saburai fits very well for Vladimir Serin. I think there's a lot to like about this horse. Only 1 for 13 overall, but I think that significant sort of relief in class, facing lesser up north, I think is going to go a long way for this horse at 5-1 in the morning line. And the other horse I would consider is Kafila, however you want to pronounce it. Kafila, I believe, is the actual pronunciation. Number 6 horse. That's all that really matters, the 6. This is one that has a little bit of tactical speed, can go out to the lead if it's given. I don't know that this one is fast enough to clear off, but if no one else wants it, this one can certainly take advantage, as noted by that most recent victory at Golden Gate on September the 16th in gate-to-wire fashion. But I'm more intrigued with a run like we had 2 starts back. I know that was against Maiden Claiming Company, but I like the fact that this one sat off of a fast pace, took over, and went on with it in a professional fashion. I think this horse is interesting at 8-1 on the morning line. Those would be the 2 horses I would consider in the 5th and final leg of the Stronach 5 on Friday at Golden Gate Fields, race number 5, the 2 and the 6. Again, it's a fun sequence. It always is. It's a dollar base bet. It's a 12% takeout. It's a wager everyone should be getting involved in. 5 races from the Stronach family of racing surfaces. Racing tracks, I should say. Different surfaces left and right. You've got dirt, you've got turf, you name it. The first leg of the Stronach 5 for Friday, October the 19th is race number 7 at Gulfstream Park West down in Florida. And schedule a post time for that race, the 7th at Gulfstream Park West. It's 4:36 Eastern. Good luck.